The brain is a high demand, high consumption organ. It's not because the Narcan helped them breathe. It's simply because it was a noxious stimuli. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And the topic I'm going to dissect today, the question is, can you overdose from the synthetic opiate fentanyl by touching it? And the other way to approach this, or the other title for this, can be the anatomy of a first responder overdose from touching fentanyl. There's a video that I'm going to show and tell you exactly what happened. This topic's been around for a couple of years, and I did a little video about it some time back, maybe over a year ago, and I just noticed that the question is still out there. I saw some comments on my YouTube channel. I heard it somewhere else. I was like, what the heck? And I thought I should revisit it. This is a really big deal for me for many, many, many reasons. And I'm going to get into why it's important for me to kind of shed some light on this. But first of all, let's address that very question. Look, it's quite simple. There's nothing to investigate. Unless the laws of chemistry, the laws of physics, the laws of pharmacology, and to some extent, if we are talking about fentanyl patches and so forth, the laws of material science, unless if these laws of science have changed all of a sudden that nobody on the planet Earth knows about, the answer is absolutely, categorically, no, you cannot overdose from touching the synthetic opiate fentanyl. It's not possible. In addition, there is not one society or expert on the planet, including medical societies, toxicological societies, international societies like World Health Organization. There's not one of them that I believe disagrees with me. Okay, and so that's that. You cannot overdose on this stuff. Nevertheless, the discussion and voodoo continues. The next question is, well, what can be happening? Because there are reports of first responders going out there and touching the fentanyl and passing out. Let's take a quick look at this video, and we'll talk a little bit about this. This is a public message video made last year in July of 2021, I guess by San Diego County Sheriff Department. Okay, check it out.
Oh, yeah, it's a powder.
Could be cocaine or fentanyl.
It tested positive for fentanyl. That stuff's no joke, dude. It's super dangerous. I was like, hey, dude, too close. You can't get that close to it. A couple seconds later, he took some steps back and he collapsed. I ran over to him and I grabbed him, and he was ODing. Narcan. Came down to him, grabbed him, and I did one nasal spray in one nostril, opened the other one, another nasal spray in the other one.
I remember just not feeling right, and then I fall back, and I don't remember anything after that.
Just breathe, buddy. Trying to get him to focus on just breathing, and because that fentanyl, you can't breathe.
It was in an instant. It's as though my lungs just locked up. I couldn't breathe. I was trying to gasp for breath, but I couldn't breathe at all.
Oh, no. Don't be sorry. You're okay. Don't be sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about. I got you, okay? I'm not gonna let you die. I'm not gonna let you die. I need Narcan! I got you. I'm trying to not...
Let's stop the video and discuss it real quick. So obviously this young man was quite traumatized from this episode, and you feel really bad for him. So as I told you, he did not overdose, but we have a public service message from a public official telling us he overdosed. At the beginning of the video, notice he was telling him, dude, you're getting too close to this stuff. It's dangerous, okay? So if he didn't overdose, what happened? He was right there. He was touching fentanyl, and he fell and passed out. What happened? Well, recently I've seen some people basically getting close to describing what happened, talking about, well, he had these guys they panic and they pass out and so forth. Let me be really specific and tell you what exactly happened. And I am more than happy. Well, he had a syncable episode. It's called syncope. Okay, he had a syncable episode. What you need to know about that, or what's important about that, what should have, it could be, for the most part, it could be neurogenic or cardiogenic. If it's neurogenic, it's a vasovagal response, okay? The blood flowing to his brain, the arteries over here got probably dilated and not enough blood went to the brain. The brain is a high demand, high consumption organ that demands and needs a lot of resources, and you can't mess with that. A little bit of disruption, the body says, stop. What happened? Okay. Oh, and other thing. Once you have a syncable episode, you need to really, what he needed was an EKG at the hospital to make sure that it was not a cardiogenic syncable episode. Something from the heart, whether it skipped a few beats and didn't get enough blood to flow to the brain, whether it was an arrhythmia. Why do you need to know that for sure? Because if it's cardiogenic, you have a high chance and a high risk of sudden death in the next few months, and this will occur again. Otherwise, if it's neurogenic, in his age group, with his body habitus, given the stressful situation he was under, he probably vasovagaled and passed out. At that moment when this happens, people need to be told, look, if that ever happens again, or you start feeling like that, get down on the floor, get away from anything sharp, get away from buildings, get away from the edge of the sink, and get down on the floor and put your head between your head so blood flows up there and you'll feel okay. Once he got to the hospital, he needed fluids. If he responded to the Narcan, it's not because the Narcan helped him breathe. It's simply because it was a noxious stimuli in his system, and it probably pissed him off and woke him up some more. That's what's going on. Syncable episode. Now, the misinformation that you overdose, look at the poor kid. He's traumatized from this. And this is why it's so important to understand, bad medical information, bad medical treatment can really impact an individual to the extent of post-traumatic syndrome and psychological issues, okay? So what we need to know is that was not an overdose. That was a syncable episode, and more than likely a neurogenic syncable episode, which is just a vasovagal response to a stressful situation. He's young. He panicked from what that guy said. It was hot. He's got heavy gear on. Probably tightened up. Blood flow to the brain, slowed, went down. That's what's probably happening in a lot of these cases. Why is this a big deal to me? It's a big deal on two counts. Let's talk about it, society at large. This one issue is one small example of the kind of nonsense, right? The kind of voodoo, magical thinking that we live with every day. And it doesn't matter if God came down and said, look, this is what's going on. The discourse of nonsense continues. That's scary to me. When public officials, when lawmakers, when health organizations, public policy organizations, governmental organizations are dishing out complete nonsense and making policy decisions on it, that's idiotic, and that means we're heading for a wall, a big wall, okay? You can't make public policy based on voodoo, and we do that every day, okay? Number two, this creates a really tough situation, both for the first responders and the substance abuse individual human being out there. It creates such a barrier between the two people that it can cause both severe angst, anxiety, fear on the side of the first responder, and on the other side, those folks that really need help And the only thing you should be doing as a first responder is using universal precautions. Gloves, maybe a mask, maybe nowadays, especially with COVID, and goggles, and boom, you get right into it, okay? Well, these guys are going to be putting on a hazmat suit before they get to the guy, and he will die from an overdose. And that stigmatizes the individual that's overdosing as somehow bad or dirty or voodoo. These are real concerns that I see kind of developing and manifesting in their outcomes every day. Recently, I heard there was maybe it was in Texas, I don't know where it was, that, if you're carrying fentanyl, that carries an additional assault charge with it that gives you additional time. That's messed up, right? You need time in a rehab and education. So what do I suggest? Let's start thinking formally. Let's start thinking like humans. Let's treat each other like humans. What do law enforcement agencies need? Education. Look, San Diego County, I am more than happy to come down there and educate law enforcement personnel both on the fact that you cannot overdose by touching fentanyl, and I'm happy to give some other additional first responder education. I used to when I lived in Kern County with Hall Ambulance, and I'm more than happy to tell you what to do in the event of a syncope and what you need to be concerned about. I hope this sheds a little bit of light on one other piece of magical thinking in this world. I hope this stimulates some thought. Leave your comments and thoughts below. Generate a discussion if you like what I'm saying, or even if you don't, but you think it's fun to watch and it teaches you something or it stimulates thought or a conversation. Consider liking, subscribing, and donating to our Patreon account. Have a great day. Peace.